And we're live, Will Leach. It's another episode of the Mindstate Marketing Hour with our favorite mad scientist. He doesn't wear an overcoat, a white overcoat. He doesn't carry um, what do you call it, a clipboard? Nope, he doesn't do that. He wears a leather jacket. He's got a book. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour. Will Leach, and today's episode, 3 actions you can take now to grow your brand in a recession. Is this foreshadowing? Is this a timely conversation? Is this the right way to help your brands, the folks that you serve, to better position for maybe some turbulence? Will, is that what's going on in your mind?
I think that's the idea. I don't know if we are going to hit a recession. I will tell you that I believe, based upon things that I'm seeing and I'm reading, we will. But when is that going to happen? I don't know. However, I can tell you that there are things you can do today that you can prepare yourself. So when you have to pull the trigger to change your messaging, to change offers, to do new promotional calendars, if you do just a few things today, you will be prepared so that if you do see that you need to change your messaging in August of this year, or maybe August of next year, or whenever it is, you're going to be prepared. So this whole Mindstate Marketing Hour is about preparation for you to be successful. Because, like in anything else, every recession, there are winners and losers. And I want you to be a winner out there. So I'm going to give you a couple of ideas to get ready so you're ready to pull that trigger.
Well, this is coming off our conversation with Mayrob, and he had talked about a really smart thing that he does with his clients. So I'm excited to talk about this because I've been thinking about it myself, Will Leach, about what I need to be doing with the conversation I should be having with my clients and where maybe I can add value and help them get ahead of the curve.
Excellent. Yeah, I think there are certain things that you could do I like what he actually said last week, where he tries to look out and even look for technologies and new solutions. But one thing that you and I can do is actually be prepared to have messaging changes ready to go. And I think behavioral psychology and mindset marketing is a great way to start. So when you do need to change that message, you're all set. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that today, my friend.
Yeah, so I was working on one of my clients' material, and I was considering what mind state that their particular clients might be in. But then I was thinking about what you were saying during the pandemic. A lot of people's state of mind transitioned to more of a common one than their usual. And I'm curious about what you have to say about, there's a lot of things going on right now. There are these train derailments. There's, these people are concerned about. Yeah, there's people are concerned about food costing more and more. What's going on in our future? There's a lot more insecurity right now than there normally has been.
Yeah, there has been. And so let me give you what my thoughts on this. So what we found in the pandemic was that regardless of what you sold, whatever industry you're in, what we found is that in almost every customer out there, they had these certain mind states, 3 mind states, in fact, that just blew up. And no matter what you sold to, you had to start adjusting for it because, the world was so chaotic in 2020. That was the point, Steve, when we'd be walking on a sidewalk and you would get off the sidewalk if somebody's walking towards you because we just didn't know about the virus or anything else. So what we found during that time is that we had a spike in people's desire for safety and security. We had another spike of people's desire for control. We call that the empowerment mind state. And then we also had a spike in people who wanted to have a moment of relaxation or a moment of actually release, which is the engagement mind state. So what happened was, for the better part of a year and a half, those mind states were ubiquitous almost across any industry. Like I had a candle manufacturer and scents, and she was asking me, normally we message to people who are trying to get this uplift and this great smelling home. What should we do? I'm like, you need to now shift over to candles can help relieve stress, right? So that was happening. Then let's talk about what happened, I think, since then. So let's say around 2020, a lot of people weren't going to work, or I'm sorry, They were working, they couldn't spend money. So savings went up. This is why I think a recession is coming, by the way. Savings went up. And it's just in the data. It tells us everybody's household savings really went up a lot. So then what happened was, as we kind of got back to the new normal, people started spending money. Like, wow, I can go to a restaurant now. I can go buy something now because it looks like the pandemic's over. But what they were doing is overspending, not just based on their current income, but the savings they had. You got stimulus checks. Some people got insurance claims from unemployment. Wages went up, in fact, right? So people started getting more money. They started wanting more money. So wages went up. People's savings were high, and they had extra disposable income. So in 2022, we saw growth that otherwise I don't know if we would have seen that level of growth because there's so much money out in the marketplace. People had so much more money in the savings. That money has starting lower and lower and lower. Why? Inflation. Inflation is making to where our normal everyday expenditures are up 20% in some cases. Gasoline went up as high as 50 or 100%. So savings, the amount of people's savings went down a lot. So what's happening, this is why I really believe that there's a recession coming, is right now, those three mind states I told you about before, this desire for security, that's not as prevalent right now. Why? Because there's been this boom since end of 2021 and all through 2022 of a lot of families buying stuff. But they're not stupid. They see the price of eggs going up. My wife now shops at Aldi, where we used to shop at Walmart, because she's not stupid. She sees her budget and saying, we're not getting nearly what we used to get. It's only going to get worse, I believe. And that's when the recession comes, because when people will stop, their savings rates are going to go down to normal again. They'll have like maybe a month's salary in savings. That's the average, is a month's salary in savings. When you hit that place, budgets will stop. People will stop buying things like, wants. They'll stop buying wants. They'll start buying necessities. And when that happens, recessions come. What I expect to happen is, just like you said, Steve, that those three mind states are probably going to come up again, right? Because we're not going to be very sure about our budget. We're not going to be very sure about what we can buy anymore. So safety is going to be an important thing for you to focus on. I think another one is control, because people are not going to feel like they're in control again, because it was only a year ago that I could have a vacation. Now I can't afford a vacation. People's desire for empowerment and control is going to also come up again. And again, I think there's going to be, people are going to look for cheaper moments of excitement and entertainment. So they're going to need more release, moments of release. This is why I think people are going to jump off of Disney Plus, Netflix. Like right now, I have Disney Plus, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime. I have a bunch of tennis channel. I have a bunch of different channels. We will not do that in the next couple of months, because we're going to have to say all those things add up. We're going to start decreasing our spend on wants, and we're going to go back to necessities. This is the type of environment I want you to be aware of out there if you're listening to. How do you position your company? So when there are 5 different channels and I got to choose 2 channels that I want to get rid of, how do you become one of those channels, one of those businesses that, like, you know what, you're a necessity, you're not a want.
Wow. So how can we adjust our messaging to justify a claim of necessity, right?
That's exactly what I'm going to try to do with you guys today.
All right. So excellent. So now let's talk about number 1 point: associate your brand with your customers' aspirational goals.
Yep. So, we talk about in the book around aspirational goals and how important they are, because your aspirational goals, Steve, are the thing that dictate your focus and your attention. When people speak to your aspirational goals, it catches your attention. Here's what I would tell you guys, and you better determine this with your business, whatever it is that you sell, whether it's consulting services, advertising, milkshakes, I don't care. You got to figure out whether you are currently a want or if you're an aspiration. Wants can be delayed. Aspirations, not as much. May sound funny. Aspirations are much more emotional. They have a deeper meaning when you can tap into somebody's aspirations, when you can basically associate your brand and its ability to help your customer meet their aspirations. That's more important than saying you fulfill a want. Let me give you an example. New homes. So people right now, maybe you live in a neighborhood that, you're starting to look around and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'm making this up. You're in a neighborhood that you don't feel as safe, or maybe the school system isn't as good as you want it to be. Your kids are getting ready to go to the school district, and you're sitting here thinking to yourself, I want a new home so I can feel safer. Like, so my family can be in a safer environment. That's a great want. And that's a powerful want. And in the economy before the recession, or I'm sorry, before the pandemic, or even maybe even last year with lower interest rates, you may go, I can do this. I have a lot of savings. I've saved up $15,000. I can go ahead and get I can get a first down payment down, etc. That is a want. However, once in this new economy, people are not going to buy as many homes. Why? Interest rates have changed. You're going to look at your spending and think to yourself, well, maybe I can do something different. Maybe rather than buying a new home in a different school district, maybe I can just be more organized and get and volunteer more at the school so my child has better access to a better education. You can do those things. You'll justify that in your head. But imagine if you are a homeowner, I'm sorry, home buyer, I'm sorry, home builder, sorry, a builder. And rather than saying we've built homes in the safer part of town with the better school districts, if you really talked to people's aspirations, and really what happens when people buy homes is that they desire like a sanctuary. It's this idea of the home, and I'm looking around at my house, it's my sanctuary. It makes me, and it protects my family from all the outside distractions. When the news is terrible, this is my sanctuary. When my kid is stressed out, this is a sanctuary. So if you talk to your customers as saying, we will help you build a sanctuary for like a happy, more successful family, that taps into my aspirations as a husband and a provider for my family. I think then your company, if you're going to help me build a sanctuary, you will earn my dollar. You're more likely to earn my dollar, not because you're making me feel safer, because you're helping me build a sanctuary that helps protect my family. And that's what I feel is my aspirational duty to my family. So I want you to know that, one, you better determine whether you're a want versus an aspiration. Like, how are you communicating today? Are you talking to people's wants? Or are you talking to people's aspirational goals? I talk about this in the book, right? Chapter 4 in the book, I talk about this, getting to tap into people's aspirational goals. They're subconscious, but if you know that and you link that to your brand, you're more likely to succeed.
Wow, that's so cool. We didn't discuss this to be clear, but I'm just working with a new brand on their messaging. And so we were trying to come up with a really great term, because they do new home construction, they do remodeling of homes, and then they do these tenant office spaces that are like, more technologically set up, their environment set up. And we were trying to come up with a common term other than space or home or office that would like get the gist of what they were trying to do. Because you think about the anxiety around this decision of choosing someone to help you build something. Well, you have an aspirational vision of what you're wanting to see, but your challenge is trying to get this guy to help you construct in physical world what you see as your vision. That's really tough. To call it a sanctuary is really elevates the expectation of the outcome
Cool.
of what you're wanting to see.
Yeah, I bet that, if you think about a sanctuary, to me anyways, it's like a protective environment, right? Like a wildlife sanctuary, right? It's protecting. And in all three of those things, like you said, there's probably some level of risk that they fear, a little bit of anxiety. Feed the hogs. That's right. Higher order goals. Thank you, Michael. I think there's something around that sanctuary that could appeal to all three of those things if you do it the right way, if you message slightly differently, but there's something to that idea. So, and especially, honestly, Steve, if I'm in fact true that messaging is whatever you're building is going to have to live for a couple of years, we're going to go into an environment, is my guess, where safety, sanctuary, that's going to be more and more important in such a complex kind of fearful world. So that's the space I would want to take my brand. In fact, that's the space I am taking my brand, is making sure that I'm always trying to reach the aspirational goals of my customers and speak to them, because I want them to think of me when they think of that sanctuary idea, whatever. I want them to think of my company.
Yes, it's really, the emotion aspect of an aspiration. When you sit there and think about it, you're dreaming of, your brain has designed this outcome that's exciting to you. But it's resolving some internal securities that you're wanting to to not do. So that emotional point is so critical to nail as a marketer or someone helping a brand.
Yeah, the rational brain is not nearly as effective, especially when you're in bad economic times. It's much less effective than the emotional brain. It just in general it is, but I am telling you, emotion matters even during recessions. You think people are like really consciously thinking about things because they're budget constrained? Emotions are even more important because emotions are the things that are constantly at play when we're looking around our world and thinking, what happened in a matter of 2 or 3 years? My life feels worse than it used to be. Emotions matter.
That seems to be this I don't know, this tension. When we're seeing the news or something, we're going, that's not logical.
Mhm.
That statement was not logical. And as things start hitting the fan more and more, logic goes out the window. We're operating
It
on
does.
emotions.
Always. Yeah. And media has done a great job, right, Steve, at tapping into our emotions all the time. That's how they get people to subscribe or to look at ads and things like that. So it's by design. Emotions matter a lot.
All right. Point two, begin using cautious frames when highlighting your features. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
So I took this because this past weekend, I don't know if I've told you this. I may have told you this on the side, or maybe we did during a show. So my son Nicholas, he's 13 years old, and he just recently got into a game called Magic the Gathering. Are you familiar with Magic the Gathering, Steve?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So you and I grew up. You're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons a little bit. I don't know if you ever played it. I didn't really play it, but like when we grew up, Dungeons and Dragons was a thing, right? And you go into people's homes and you role play and you throw these dice around. You have these adventures, right? Well, Magic the Gathering came out of it. So it's a card game. It's a strategy card game, and um, it's actually done. He loves this. Like he just really loves this idea of, you enter in this world where you're kind of you're basically creating a strategy like a battlefield, and you're battling other people, and you're using mythical warriors and spells and whatever. Who cares? But I was sitting here thinking about if that is a want for most people. It's fun. Like, so here's what he does. There's a comic book store called I forgot the name of it. There's a comic book store he goes to that and he plays for a couple of hours, in fact, and he plays this game with lots of different people. And they have tournaments, stuff like that. So it's pleasurable. It's fun for him. But it costs a lot of money. Like you buy these little booster packs, you want better cards, and they're like $5, and he goes through his allowance really, really quickly. So I started thinking to myself, if you're Magic and you're thinking to yourself, you've got a bunch of 13-year-old, 14-year-old kids who their discretionary income is going to go down. Magic cards have gone up. The price of Magic cards have gone up. You should expect that you're going to see some sort of a decrease in sales. And here's what Magic does. Magic is constantly trying to promote themselves. I don't work with them, but my guess is it's around this idea of you're going to have more fun because you're going to learn how to think more strategically. And that's why I kind of like it for Nick, because it makes him think about strategy. It sounds funny, but like you do the same thing with chess. He does the same thing with Magic. He's thinking about, I'm not going to play this card yet because I think I'll play it in the future. So he's learning a little bit about strategy. So they are talking to him, or they're promoting as this like, we are going to give you more fun. We're going to give you more strategic ability, things like that. So those are what we call optimistic frames. That's how we frame our benefits. So if you know about framing effects, right? So I talk about this in my book. Framing effect is where the way you talk about your features can dictate how people perceive that same feature. So you can have a feature could be price. Well, the way I frame up that price, I can change how you perceive that price. If I frame you up Magic the Gathering saying, hey, Magic the Gathering, this deck of cards is only $5, much cheaper than a movie, you're saying, yes, that's exactly right. Like, oh my gosh, it's a great form of entertainment. For $5, I can get 2 hours of fun versus a movie for $20 now, $16 a ticket. I could take that same Magic card and say, okay, I can frame you against a comic book that I can get you. Well, I say a pack of Magic cards is $5. A comic book is $1. All of a sudden, Magic the Gathering seems pretty expensive at that point. So framing affects how we compare ourselves, and what we compare ourselves to matter. So imagine we're talking about Magic the Gathering and you're talking about better, hey, if you keep buying cards for your son, Will, you're going to help him have more fun and more strategy, better strategic skills. Awesome. Unless I'm running low on money. Now, the better way to frame it for me, and if I was Magic, I would start doing this right now, is I would say Magic allows you to save money because you don't have to go to your to a movie anymore and spend, like, we're gonna go see tomorrow, we're gonna go see Ant-Man 3 or what Ant-Man, yeah, the Quantumanium. The tickets, Steve, I couldn't believe the tickets were almost $40. Almost $40 for three people. I don't know where she's getting them. I was like, holy cow. I can remember when $7 tickets were astronomically expensive. I'm
Hmm.
paying almost $40 a ticket. So I could say, so what they could do is say, this is a much lower cost versus going to see a movie. And we can help your child reduce stress because they're able to character in this mythical world. It's the same Magic the Gathering game, but the advantages, or I'm sorry, the benefits, the features that you're offering me, if you could turn those more into cautious frames, meaning we're going to help you save money, reduce stress, lower risk, that should resonate much better than especially in the next couple of months. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. I'm not telling you to change your messaging now. What I am telling you to do is think through those benefits that you normally are talking to, and you may be using optimistic frames. We have you more exciting adventures. We give you more strategy, whatever. I think you should have a couple of messages ready to go because when you turn that dial on, you need to reshift that message. And now you're going to reframe every one of your benefits in the cautious language. People are going to feel more cautious when there's lots of stress out there, when there's lower budgets, if we're in a recession. That messaging is the ability, it will get you to more the aspirational side of life versus a want. Magic the Gathering cards is a want, Steve. I'm telling you, like, it's a want. So if you're a want, you better position yourself in a way to me to where I think to myself, you know what? He doesn't need Magic the Gathering, but it's helping Nicholas remove stress. And by the way, I'm trying to create a sanctuary here for him. And if that's a good way of helping him lower stress, and you can save me money versus me sending him off to a movie theater, let's go ahead and do it.
So is that in the area of control?
I think it's actually in the areas of release and release a little bit there, and a little bit of safety, because safety is also savings. So I think it's like, if you told me that I can save my budget, right? So it's a lower cost and it gets Nicholas lower stress. That's a release, a much cheaper form of release than for me to spend a lot of money for him to go and get excited at a movie. So I think it's both of those.
I was thinking from the standpoint of, and why I brought up control is I was thinking, well, that gives me control of justification of spending on this
Could be,
when I'm
yeah.
going, when I'm seeing it as it's much less than a theater ticket.
Yeah,
$40.
helps you control your budget. Helps you control your budget. There's definitely something in there too. Definitely. Yeah.
So, all right. So $40, Will.
40 is $37. I couldn't believe it for 3 tickets. It's crazy.
You must, the risk of producing a movie and justifying that ticket price.
That's before popcorn and soda, right? We're going to be down $50 on Friday night for a 2-hour on whatever movie. You're right. That's just the world we live in. Inflation, man.
Integrate behavioral economics into your promotional calendar.
Yeah. So, we don't talk about behavioral economics enough, I think, on this show. I love behavioral economics, but we don't talk about it enough. But it's actually arguably really, really important when it comes to messaging. Like when we talk about activating or creating brand associations between your brand and people's aspirational goals, that's strategy. That could take a long time. Behavioral economics are things you can do today and you can see results tomorrow. It's really, really fast. So for those of you who don't know behavioral economics, it's the study of cognitive heuristics, but basically it's the study of shortcuts that help you make decisions fast and easier. And when you can help people make fast, easy decisions, that faster, easier decision is usually the one they take. So it's a principle. It's called behavioral economics. And I started thinking to myself, I don't know how far you guys go out with your clients, Steve, but like in a consumer packaged goods company, they have what's called a promotional calendar. And so they're basically 9 months to a year out. They know every month, every week, every day what they're going to do. Not social media, but they know what coupons they're going to do. They know what movie properties they're going to be associated with. They know that out about a year in advance. Once you lock in your promotional calendar, it's very difficult for you to get out of it. So let's say, for instance, you had a new product launch and you're going to put that you've already sold it into Walmart. and that product is, it's been sold into Walmart 9 months before it's ever released. You can't, all of a sudden you see economics going down, you see, oh my gosh, the economy is going bad. You can't go to Walmart and say, you know what, we're going to pull back. It doesn't work that way. Walmart penalizes you bad. Like, we can't trust you. So I'm not going to, we did a bunch of work to try to figure out, how do we put you into the store? How do we promote you? So you can't do that. So what you need to do though is know, how do you use these small behavioral economic principles? We call them triggers. How do you use these triggers? I'm going to give you 3 that I came up with that you should kind of in the back pocket think about having these triggers ready to go to where you can use them. So if we get into a recession, you have these principles. And the first one is called scarcity effect. And here's the idea of scarcity effect, everybody. There is a trigger inside your brain that tells you that there are things that are scarce in nature. Scarce have more value. So you place more value on something if somebody's telling you, hey, it's limited, or it's only limited time only, or while supplies last. These are these triggers that signal to your mind that there's value in that. So you can increase the perceived value of your product by doing this, by placing these types of words around an offer. So for instance, if I believe that I need to use scarcity effect in my promotional calendar, I know that I'm thinking about September, October, November, thinking we may be in a recession there. How can I get somebody who has less disposable income? How can I get them to still buy my product? Well, I would start thinking about promoting a limited time offer. Like when you say offer good for 8 days or something like that, that just that little signal of 8 days creates greater perceived value of your product because you're limiting it. So I would be putting in my promotional calendar the ability to pull a coupon, pull an offer that already has it all messaged out saying limited time offer or limited edition product. Magic the Gathering does this really well, by the way. I figured this out. What they do is they have these packs of like 15 cards. I may be getting this wrong. I should know this because I'm spending a bunch of money on it. Seems like it. But they say in every pack, you get one limited edition card. You don't know what that edition card is, but you get one. That creates more value because I'm thinking, oh, it's a limited edition card. That card may be worth $20, but I paid $5 for the pack. Or it could be worth $3 and paid $5 for the pack. So what they do is they say limited edition products because it creates greater value, or it's any kind of special deal, but you call it special. It's limited time. You may say, this deal is going to give you 2x more value, but it's limited, a limited edition. Those types of things, special creates value. So use scarcity effect as your first one I want you to think about, and have promotions ready to go that you can take your current offer, place it on a limited promotion, call it a limited edition, change it up slightly, call it a limited edition, and that may be able to get you some extra purchases.
Love that. All right. So scarcity. So what are the other 2?
So the other 2, and we'll talk about this one, it's called anchoring and adjustment. And then we're going to talk about endowment effect. So anchoring and adjustment, anchoring is this. I just had this conversation yesterday with a company. Guys, there is no judgment that you can make without an anchor. You cannot judge whether something's good unless you know that something's bad. You can't judge if something's cheap unless if you anchor it to something else. So he who controls the anchor controls judgment. Sounds funny, but if you can compare your product to something else, an anchor, you can manipulate the way it's perceived. So I heard this, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that more Rolls Royces are sold at yacht shows than in any other place, even in the dealerships, anywhere in the world. So you say, what does a Rolls Royce have to do with a yacht? Like, why would that even matter? Well, if you compare a Rolls Royce next to a dealership that sells Lamborghinis, for instance, a Lamborghini actually looks like a pretty good value compared to a Rolls Royce. But if I put a Rolls Royce next to a $100 million yacht, a Rolls Royce looks actually pretty cheap, and I still get the status of something like that, right? So he who controls the anchor controls judgment and value. So anchoring effect is this idea is that people use the first piece of information and they create a psychological anchor. They look at that piece of information, that price point, and they say, okay, all other prices next to that will be judged upon the first thing I see. So what you can do to create value for your product, right, is anchor something to anchor your product to something that's more expensive, right? So I could sit there and say, let's go back to what we just said about the movie tickets for Magic the Gathering cards. I can anchor you saying movie tickets on the average now are $17. For only $5, you can get a brand new pack of cards. That created an anchor. You set me up with movie tickets are $17. You've now set up a $5 pack of cards for a couple of stupid little pieces of cardboard. That feels very valuable because I've compared it to something expensive. So you compare your product to something else. But I know some of you out there are fearful, like, wait, I don't want to talk about my competitors because then it's opening the door for maybe them to look at that. Look at them, no problem. What you can do is you can anchor to, I'm putting air quotes for you guys who can't see it, an original price. So here's what you could do. You may have a product out there that's worth $100. You have a training program for $100. Very quickly, you could say, original price, $125. Now, $99.99, $99.99. You control the original price. There aren't that many people, honest to God, that remember that, oh yeah, you've been selling a product for this much, especially if you're not in like a durable good, if you just have a product or a service. So they don't know how to compare you. So why wouldn't you create the anchor? You say original price, $125, limited price, $99.99. He who controls the anchor controls judgment. So you control that anchor. Talk about your product used to be sold at a higher price. Now it's at a lower price. Guys, if you don't know this is happening to you, it's happening to you every day anyways. Every time you get a discount, almost always in a grocery store, I'm telling you, it says like previously, whatever price point, that previous price point was the price point. I'm sorry. When they say, previously it was a higher price and now here's your new price, that new price is very close to the original price. No matter what they tell you, it's almost always close to the original price. Companies don't make that much margin anymore. They don't make that much margin to give that up. So they tell you that the old price was much higher than it really was. And we don't remember prices. And we're like, oh yeah, my gosh, it used to be $125. This is a great discount, even though you really only saved 1 penny off of that. So he controls the anchor, controls judgment. Use anchoring effect, anchor to a higher price item. That'll bring you perceived value.
Excellent. I love this. So you're dropping some great quotes here. So I had to put that down.
Good. I like it too. I read it. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
So scarcity.
Yep.
Anchoring and adjustment. And next.
Endowment effect. So endowment effect. So this is the idea that people place value on things that they own. So great. We place higher value on things that we own because we have an emotional connection. We bought it. We may have used it a little bit. But more importantly, I think it's this, is they also place value on things when they feel like they own them. So you don't have to necessarily own something for you to feel endowment effect. What you have to do is show them that they could have perceived, they may have owned it. So here's a great example of how companies do this. They will do this. They'll give you a membership. Have you ever gotten an offer like this? They'll send a membership to you in the mail, and they'll say, don't lose your membership. They're telling your brain that you're already a member of this group, whatever this membership is, and then you don't want to lose it. So what they're doing by telling you that is saying, oh, I'm already an owner of something. I place more value. I don't want to lose something I already own. I'm willing to pay for it. So what you can do to create endowment effect, and the easiest thing to do is this: give free samples of something. Give a free offer, something that's free. Can't ask them to ask. You can't have them ask for it. You just need to give it to them. That creates that if they have a free offer or limited time offer, you give it to them for free, or like a limited trial, a sample of some kind. Then they feel like they own that, no matter how small it is, by the way. They feel like they own it, Steve. Then what you do is you give them that temporary ownership. And with that temporary ownership, then there is increased perceived value. Now you just say, hey, you want to renew? Or would you like another 2 of these? That's how you create. So endowment effect creates emotional engagement and attachment by making people feel like they own something. And then all you have to do is say, don't lose this. I gave you 1, but there's another 3 that you could get for a low price. Don't miss out on this. Don't lose your opportunity. When you use the words don't lose, that activates endowment effect. So you give something for free, then you say another 3 Don't want to miss out on losing the 3. This just almost happened to me. They almost got me at Firestone. I don't know if I would get sued by these companies. I keep using names. I went in for my registration, and they did the registration for, every year you got to re-register your car and it has to make sure it meets EPA guidelines. And they said, "Hey, Will, you're at 25% of tread on your tire." And so here's what they do. They say, we have a deal right now. 1 free tire, you get the remaining 3 at a lower price. And then they go, "You don't want to lose out on this deal." And I thought, they're giving me something for free. There's my free tire. But if I want to get the other, if I want to get the other 3 tires, they're going to be bundled up in something. I don't want to miss out on this opportunity to get all 4 tires for one low price. I thought to myself, they're giving that one for free because they're trying to use endowment effect. That's what they're doing. They could have just said, "We have a special on tires, all 4 for $1,000. They didn't say that. They go, "We have 1 free tire, and then the remaining 3 tires, you get access to the remaining free tires, free tires, 3 tires." I keep saying free 3. 3 tires, don't miss out. They're just using endowment effect.
That's easy for you to say.
I know, free 3 free. So
I love this point here, membership. So having a membership means you own some unique version of that product or service, and therefore the endowment effect is taking place. Because I've really considered, the pricing on a subscription that I paid for when I began. They were new. They had this entry level subscription. 2 or 3 years later, I'm evaluating whether I'm taking advantage of that. But then when I look at what the cost of the subscription now, in my mind, I'm going, well, I'll keep paying for it just in case. I might need it more in the future, so I don't have to pay that bigger price.
yeah, that's an interesting way to do it. I will say this is that if you are in a business that you rely on renewals, making people a member or a part of a community matters a lot. Because if they're a member of something, just like you said, I got my membership allows me to keep my rates as it is. If I'm no longer a member, who knows what I'll pay a year from now if I need to, turn on my service back on. It actually just happened to me on Disney Plus, because I was thinking to myself, because they're raising their rates, but we were still paying a low rate, and we still turned it off. I kept thinking to myself, but what if, when the new Marvel movies come out, we're fans. If I want to watch those, what's that membership rate going to be then? It's going to be much higher probably. And it makes you kind of pause. It makes you think, well, you know what? Maybe we'll keep it along, even though we don't watch it that much, because I don't want to pay that new rate. Memberships matter to people. It's just because you own something that isn't really tangible, but it's a feeling like you belong, and that's why it's so important.
One of the things I really coach our clients on is you need to consider some way of designing a community for your audience. And I see it as a great business model that many brands have taken advantage of. I've seen it to the point where it's a single owned company that this person has all these members, and they're asking all these questions about the SaaS product, for example. This person is unable to answer all those. The community is so strong that the members start to handle the FAQ questions and run the community on the behalf of the one who started it.
Yeah,
and
I've seen that too.
The endowment effect. I've never described the value of investing in creating a community for your brand until today, when you started discussing the endowment effect.
Yeah, that's a great example. Are you on the I'm on the Chat GPT, Facebook? I think it's well over 500,000 now, so it's really unwieldy. But you start seeing that too, where the one person who owns that Facebook, I guess, group or whatever, there's no way that person can get close. But you're right, and I think there's a little bit of I don't know, like esteem in there a little bit too. Like, I can answer this question. I think there's some of that too. But it's really powerful when the community takes over and they start it becomes its own ecosystem or whatever. And all the person in the group, I'm sure the group moderator does, is just make sure that, it's cordial. There's not a lot of insults, things like that, as best they can. But yeah, no, I love that idea too. It's just, when you get to that place in your community, you're in a really good spot where they start taking over the community. It's great. Let them solve your problems on your behalf.
This is excellent. So,
Yeah,
Will, great conversation. Lots of good drops today. You just on
good.
point, brother.
All right. All right. I'm glad I could help.
So I'm glad I could help. So guess what time it is in the Mindstate Marketing Hour, where we will get to see Will Leach bust some moves, as they used to say back in the day. I'm in this little room and it's an echoey, Who am I, by the way? I'm Steve Brown. I'm the co-host of the Mindstate Marketing Hour. I like to describe myself as the smartest guy in marketing. Why do I describe myself as the smartest guy in marketing? Because I get to hang out with Will Leach every week as he drops these great golden nuggets. And by the way, if you guys don't have Will's book, I'm mobile, so I don't have your book handy, Will, but show him your book. So it's Marketing to Mind States. This is a book where I learned all about the states of mind that your folks are in that moment they're making a decision. And if you're not addressing that, if you're not arranging your content to speak to that state of mind, then your content is in a one size fits all. And in every situation, one size fits all is not the best solution. I guess unless you're selling yoga pants. I don't know. But
even then, I'm not sure, right? That's right. I'm not sure.
Okay, so Will,
I bought yoga pants for my wife and she turned them in. So one size fits all did not work for her. What do you do?
That's such a dangerous thing to buy, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, if you can't go, what size should I buy? If you're wanting it to be a surprise, it's one of those minefields that we have to tiptoe through.
No, we should have a whole show on minefields.
Why not?
We should.
Will, obviously the topic was prefaced by a recession. Do you think a recession's coming?
Yeah, I do. And I don't care about employment figures. I don't care about GDP, guys. And I guess I went to school for economics. And so here's what I learned. It's looking at savings and spending. And when people are spending money using savings, and those savings are getting lower and lower, and the government keeps track of this, that's when I know that actual spending is going to go down, when people are spending too low of their savings. So that's why I believe a recession is coming. I wish I could tell you when, but I know a lot of economists think it'll be in third quarter, fourth quarter, maybe it's next year, but I really believe unless something drastically changes, savings are down. When savings are down, people stop spending. When people stop spending, companies go out of business. That's why the recession's coming.
So it's a great time to position your content and your message around safety, control, and release. All right. So what's the impact of these on brand personality equity? I mean, we have hopeful, optimistic, equity.
Wow. Okay, that's a good question. So you may be, if I'm interpreting right, I think you may be saying is that you have a happy brand, you have a aspirational brand, it's a fun brand, and what if I go dark with this kind of, safety and lacking control in a time where control is never ending, whatever. I totally get that. So here's what I tell you to do. The messages that I told you to do today should not be towards equity messaging for the most part. When I was talking about the scarcity principle, whatever, those should be about limited time offers. It should be about your features of your product, not who you stand for or who you stand for as a brand with equity. So my point is what I want you to do is focus on your messaging when you talk about your company. Stay with your brand personality, the optimistic, fun, whatever it is you're doing, but then talk about your features and reframe those in a way that feels more safety, control, and engagement. So something like this. Remember, we were talking about this idea of buying a home, and like you want to create. Let's say you're a game. Let's go to a game manufacturer. You want to create moments of joy and levity with your family. Cool. That's awesome. Fun. Magic the Gathering could be very aspirational and fun like that. What you could do though is you could talk about what your brand does by saying, we can help lessen when your family is disconnected, and we can help you work together as a team. Just by saying lessening moments of disconnection would tap into that kind of cautious feeling that people have without telling the whole company or telling the whole world that your brand stands for cautiousness. So still talk about the aspirations you have for your customer. Family time is important, but then talk about your feature. We help your family stay lessen being disconnected would be the way I'd go.
Love it.
Yep.
Here's the best one today, I thought, was you can't make a judgment without an anchor. So how can you judge the value of something without an anchor? And that's your opportunity to control that. He who controls the anchor controls the judgment.
Yep. You cannot. So guys, own your anchor. Don't let your competitors anchor you to them, because they will then own perceptions of value. Always control your anchor. Whatever you're being compared to, always, as best you can, control that.
Another excellent episode of the Mindstate Marketing Hour, where you have learned how to use science to connect with your clients. It's just a human understanding model, as Will likes to say. You can learn more about Will's offerings at themindstategroup.com. You can reach out to Will, say, hey, let's review my messaging. Let me help get my messaging prepared for what you're talking about. Will, you wouldn't turn down that request, would you?
I wouldn't. I just met with an artist, actually, a very young artist this week, who went to the mindstategroup.com, booked an appointment. We talked about how to build up his personal brand, because he's just starting out as an artist. He's like 20, he looked like 22, 23-year-old. So I even do it with artists too. If you need some help with your messaging, just give me half hour. I'll tell you some good things. And maybe there's an offering I have for you as well. I can help you out.
Will, you've done a great job. Any last wishes before your last meal? You're not having a last meal, Will.
Maybe after these movie tickets that I'm buying for tomorrow's thing, it might be my last meal for a while. But nope, I'm good. Hey guys, just stick in there. Behavioral science-based marketing works if you just keep trying it. I know Michael's been a fan of the show. I know he's been trying. He's had some really good success. Keep with it. You can really do some amazing things. Science-based marketing. That's right. Feed the hogs. Feed the higher order goals. Feed those higher order goals, and it'll help your business.
All right, we're rolling out here. Thanks, Kristen, for this great outro. Here we go. Did you know this is a podcast? You can subscribe and listen on Stitcher, Buzzsprout, iHeartRadio, all the places that cool kids listen. And if you want to watch, if you like to watch, you like Chauncey Gardner, you can watch and subscribe on YouTube, and it's the Mindstate channel. Lots of great episodes. Will and I have been doing this for a while. We're getting kind of good at it. I think we're starting to figure it out. This is an award-winning podcast.
That's
the
right.
number
Podcast
one rated podcast of the year in behavioral science. We'll be swinging at the fences again. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you next week, same time. We'll have a great week.
You too, Steve. Take